Hello, Earthlings.
What is up?
I didn't know what I was going to say there, so I just decided. I think it's from like a TV show way back when.
A long time ago.
Third
How are
rock,
you, man?
Third Rock from the Sun, I think. I don't know. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm well. Kicking off episode number 93.
Yes, this little show called the Fervent Four Show that just two bored dudes on March 25th-ish time frame decided, hey, let's just press record and see what happens.
That's what's wild to think, man. As we approach number 100, we're getting closer and closer to 2 years. So a lot has changed since then. And
stay tuned for a big episode 100. We're gonna have balloons,
confetti,
some sort of audio craziness. Who knows? Dogs, puppies, cats. I mean, whatever. Swimming pools.
Yeah.
We're gonna go big. We're gonna have DJs. We're gonna have everything. Hot dogs, because nothing is complete without hot dogs.
That's right.
Something that maybe not everyone knows is that we did audio-fy these files as well. You can check all of them out online wherever you listen to your podcast. Just search Fervent 4. It's a beautiful thing. So you don't just have to watch us. You can listen to us as well. We got another returning guest.
We don't have many, but so this week we have Mike Descher, and he is an old school guest. Episode number 8 we had him on, and that's when we had no idea what was happening back then. So
do you ever like I didn't know what episode it was until you guys just told me this, but what's interesting is I think back and I'm I sometimes we do the scroll of where we're looking at episodes.
Dude, it's such a great time lapse.
It is a great time lapse. Just Tim always looks exactly the same.
No,
you look a little tan today, but that's different. But it's just interesting to then be like, oh, I totally forgot we had that guest, or oh my gosh, I thought that guest was earlier or not. And so it'll be interesting to see what's changed. If you recall, when we first had Mike on episode 8, so that was probably late May of 2020, heart of lockdown probably, or maybe coming out of the lockdown, and conferences, definitely not going on. He did.
And for those that don't know, that's Mike's business is setting up. He lives in the conference space. So when he's traveling to Orlando or Vegas, to the biggest of conferences, and then everything is shut down, then the world is turned upside down. So it'll be interesting to hear how things have changed in the last 2 years.
Yeah, because it has been a while, and I don't know. I felt like, and we were talking to him a little bit beforehand, but it's interesting because I feel like in this past summer, 2021, things were open again. Everyone's like, yo, let's go. I was starting to schedule conferences again, speaking gigs, and then it was like, never mind. But
not so fast. Well,
not so fast, my friend. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, Mike?
How you guys doing? To all the listeners out there, just remember, after this episode, you can binge listen for 93 hours of Fervent 4. So if you're driving between here and Williamsburg Peninsula area and Washington, D.C., you got plenty of time when the snow falls this weekend.
That's right.
And this is when I say, hi, Mom. Thanks for listening to those 93 episodes.
Dude, you probably could have got through most of them if you were stuck on 95 a couple weeks ago.
That's it. But it is a great honor to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. So your world was turned upside down a couple years ago. What has happened since then?
Well, it's been kind of interesting. I think I'll start off, if I can show this, since pictures mean more than words. This is the graph of the trade show industry from 2017 to present.
Gotcha. So for those that are listening,
the graph is really high on the left, 2017, and significantly lower, two-thirds lower probably on what is that, 2021?
It basically dropped from about of people that participate in companies from about 20% to 5% or 6%. But there's lots of statistics on the web people can look up on their own. But the trade show and conference industry has morphed itself, which is actually kind of good and bad in many ways. The bad news is obviously attendance is down. CES that was just held in Vegas, which is one of the largest shows.
Yeah. How did that go? Have you heard back from your people how that went? Because I heard criticism and I heard things on both sides in terms of should they have had it? Was it too risky? But then they pulled off. What did you hear on your end?
Well, the good news was the Las Vegas Tourist Association, which handles a lot of it as far as managing, the COVID stuff and, logistics and that sort of thing. They published some figures. So in 2019, the attendance was 171,000, and this year it was 40,000. But a lot of people forget when they use those numbers that those numbers also include the press and include the people that work in the trade show booths, the companies that are exhibiting. Mm-hmm. So of that 40,000, about 5,000 of them were press and exhibitors. And the exhibit floor was dramatically down. It was down, 70% with exhibitors. That's the bad news. The good news is it was up dramatically for small business. So once you got the big players out of the way, the Intels and Microsofts and those kind of people,
they had an opportunity
to have 100 by 100 foot booths or bigger. More real estate became available. So a company that would normally get a 10 by 10 out in the woods got a 20 by 20 where people would actually see them. And there was a lot of discussion and things. So a lot of new innovative products that were shown that people got really good exposure. That was really, really good. And from my viewpoint, it was, great because when I go to trade shows to look around, I always start at the back and look for the little guys because that's where the innovation and stuff is really happening. So I think that's a good thing. The bad news is Omicron, just as we were starting to pull out, Omicron set in. And a lot of people in my industry who were just barely digging out that had, a lot of employees and warehouses and this and that, it really kicked them because suddenly people were canceling contracts where they were halfway through building booths and everything else. So refunds and all kinds of crazy.
So touching on that real quick, has contract language changed since 2020 or is it now you just have to get insurance?
Well, you should always have insurance. That's the first thing. But on my end of the business, there's virtually no insurance that you can get when somebody backs out of a show. The only thing that you have is a contract, and the contract usually states you have to pay for physical things up to a certain point. So if I printed all the fabric or stuff or counters or, whatever for your show, your hanging sign or whatever, you've got to pay me for that. But you don't have to pay me for all of the hours invested in planning and consulting with you and all that part of it. And that's what puts a lot of people out of business. The only reason that we have survived, and we just celebrated 20 years in December and had quite an interesting call with all the people involved, is that for those people that don't know, MediaGroup is actually a co-op. I have no employees. I have no warehouse. Instead, we use 100% contractors that work remotely, and we have always worked remotely. And by doing that, as the market went down, a lot of the people that had 100,000 square foot warehouses with pieces in them and, 50, 60, 100 employees, we lost probably 70% of the players in our industry, which was really too bad. And we lost an awful lot of the sub people, like the guys that screw things together, the contractors, the electricians, the guys on a show floor that help out, that lay carpet.
Just the businesses just had turnover,
they just went into other businesses because there wasn't anywhere they could go.
And they needed to make money.
Closed down. And it gets real hard. I mean, imagine yourself as an electrician and you've decided you'd like to work in trade shows because you could work inside where it's, at least, cooler maybe or warmer. And somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I need you for 4 days, and I'm going to pay you $65 an hour," and you think that's great, and then a week before you go to work, they say, "Oh, never mind, the COVID propped up, and they canceled the show," and that happens to you 10 or 12 times in a row, and you got a family to feed.
Yeah,
wow.
makes it hard, but it is helping small businesses. So
it's interesting, and so I will likely get canceled for saying a comment like this. But I'm going to say it. So it's almost like you look at some of these scenarios and it's like, okay, stuff's open, right? Go to a basketball game, right? You can fly. You can go to a restaurant. You can do all these things with massive amounts of people. And it seems like some people are getting more attention by bashing some bigger groups happening than others. And it just like, to me, it's like, people were talking about, oh, is the Super Bowl going to get moved? Is it going to get canceled? Something like that. 100,000 people at the stadium. And it's like, well, they played there all year. What's the difference? Right. People are all out in other places. So it's just like, does it seem like we're going to see, just because everything's open, it's just whether or not people go, I guess, at this point? Or are you seeing some restrictions still on some of your conferences? I mean, could they have had 170,000 people at CES this year to match 2019, or was there restrictions there?
No, there's restrictions basically in every convention center and conference, and basically every hotel.
So what's the difference between that and a sporting venue?
That's a good question. I really don't know. Other than I do know that some stadiums, depending on the stadium, don't fill the capacity. So they do. Still. Yeah, they may seat 25,000 people, but they may only have seats available for 15,000, and they separate them. They put little things on the seats or whatever to keep people at least a seat away from each other. But it depends on what state you're in. It depends on how the people feel in that particular region or state or city, whether they go or not. In my side, it all comes down to legal liability, because you have companies that have legal liability where they force people to go work a trade show, and you don't know who's going to be there. Orlando is a good example. I hear all the time, and God bless Orlando. They did a great job. The first thing they did was spend millions of dollars to upgrade their convention center, and it's a very safe convention center. But once you step out the doors, you're still in Orlando. And you get a lot of people from a lot of different states and a lot of people from Florida, and many of them are unvaccinated. Many of them don't wear masks.
So like in terms of like the upgrades, do they like improve like ventilation systems and that kind of thing, where like the exhaust everything up as opposed to around?
Yeah, like Orlando went through it and they put in the highest quality HEPA air conditioners that they could, the same they use in hospitals. That filtered the air down. They made sure that their doors close quicker, and that some escalators were actually taken out and put in different sides. So you went up on one side of an area and then down on the other, rather than going, side by side on an escalator.
Oh, wow.
When they're doing the trade show things, the aisles used to be 10 or 12 feet wide, and now they're about 20 feet wide. And they stagger the people coming into the show. So maybe some people can only come in from 10 to noon and some from noon to 4.
Are you seeing that is venue to venue difference?
Yeah, it's venue to venue. It's producer to producer. It's city to city, convention center to convention center. It's always a toss-up, because I could look at my trade show calendar now, and if you looked at it and you didn't know any better, you'd think, wow, business is going to be great. But everybody I know that's in the industry looks at the thing and goes, okay, which ones are going to continue? Which ones will cancel at the end so that I can mitigate my risk? Because I don't want to talk people into or work with clients that may just back out at the end because of something that happened on the news last night. And they're willing to lose, 50, 60, 100,000 or more. It's cheaper for them to back out than it is for them to go and risk liability of an employee suing them.
Who other than Orlando and Vegas are the big locations that things are happening?
Chicago, McCormick is large, and amazingly enough, I haven't heard very much about Chicago. I know that they're doing smaller events, but I don't know of any large shows that have gone on. There was a big digital imaging show that would have normally happened in Las Vegas that they moved to Baltimore, and it had a big drop in attendance, but it was nice that it went on. It really varies. There are many more conferences and outdoor events. So like here locally, companies like Culture Fix and different chambers and things that do a lot of outdoor music events and craft
instead
events.
of the indoor stuff. So they're trying to do things outside.
They're growing a lot, and they should be, because they're safer and they're outside and all that. Of course, then when we get colder weather, that becomes a regional thing also. Here in Florida, you can do more outside events all year.
Right. Yeah, I would think that places like Orlando and Miami would be plus the state is just wide open anyway, that they would be almost have the first mover advantage and do well for themselves.
Yeah. What I'm amazed is I'm from California, from Los Angeles, and you would think that Los Angeles would be just doing really, really well in that space. But traditionally and even currently, they're doing really, really bad in that space. The city of Los Angeles has always kind of not been able to get out of their own way to have one-to-many events, even though they have a beautiful conference center and they've got beautiful locations to have things, and that it just doesn't seem to, the tourism council doesn't seem to get it together.
Well, they'll have a lot of people there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Zach, you shared with me Super Bowl ticket prices.
Yeah, $5,000. Yeah, $5,000.
That's like
hit. So that's like a
up top.
Oh yeah, the worst seats you could get. So that's like a bucket list item for me, right?
Yeah.
And I look every year, and it's always about the same price, right? About $5,000. And I'm just like, yo, like 10 G's, and I don't get to watch the halftime or I don't get to watch the commercials. Like, is this worth it? Like, I think SoFi looks really cool though, so it'd be cool to be in a place like that. I mean, I'm not going to go to the Super Bowl, but I do. It's interesting. It's interesting how the Super Bowl is going to, in my guess, bring a crap ton of attention and people to the city, but other things can't. So it's so like, to your point, it's odd that, like, it seems like the event matters, obviously, but I don't know, like it's events are a weird thing now, right? So like, depending on where you live, some people are like, screw it, let's go, and some people are like, yo, I'm not ready. And to me, it's like, do whatever you want. Like, I'm not here to make an opinion on someone. Like, if you want to, like, I was the guy that was, bathed in hand sanitizer for 2 years. Like, I like, some people would say I still do that, but it's like, yo, make the decision you want. If you want to go there, then go. And it seems like at some point that's going to be where we're turning to, but who knows? As a business owner, knowing that things are just juggling, like,
I mean, what does a business owner need to know right now if they were to say, hey, we scrounged up a little bit of marketing money, we want to go to a trade show? What advice do you give these folks?
It's really difficult because for some reason, as we all know, the issue of the virus, all the viruses, has gotten sort of politicized and divided for some silly reason. I think if I had employees in my company, I would make sure that they were all vaccinated, that they'd all have to wear masks, that they're all social distancing, they're not sharing rooms in a hotel, that kind of thing. And I think most companies are kind of doing that, but it adds extra expense. So I don't know. It gets right back, Tim, to the whole idea of it's kind of up to you and how safe you are. Like, Zach, if you go to the Rose Bowl, one of the things that I'm looking at that's going to be interesting is LA is still kind of in a lockdown. They've got mask requirements for everything, eating indoors, all of that. They're social distancing. They're keeping a lot of restaurants at minimum occupancy, outdoor eating only. But they're going to have an influx of a bunch of people from around the country. And there's a lot of people from around the country that goes, hey, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not getting vaccinated. I never will. But I'm going to the Rose Bowl, forgetting that the Rose Bowl is a private event owned by somebody else, and you're paying for the privilege to see it.
And that was one thing. I just recently flew. I flew home Sunday night, and like one of the things that I noticed is like the job of the flight attendant now is nothing more than mask patrol. Yeah, I mean, that's all they were doing is just enforcing masks while you're on the plane. I was like,
Oh, really?
I would not want.
So like walking by and just be like,
Yeah, and they tell you, if you're taking a nap or you fall asleep, make sure your mask is on so we don't have to wake you up and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, like that's now their job. They're just enforcing mask wearing.
Do they still give you food and drink?
Alcohol is no longer a thing on flights anymore.
And they recommend you not to eat or drink.
Yeah, and and that was the other big thing. The biggest announcement I heard while flying was reminding everybody that it is illegal to bring on board your own alcohol. But
when did that? Why is that? When did that change?
Well, apparently, but apparently they stopped serving it when Corona and COVID started. When they stopped meal service and all that kind of stuff, they stopped alcohol service, and then they just never brought back alcohol service. So I don't know if people just need to it's something to help them fall asleep. Maybe they need to relax themselves. I don't know what the deal is, but it's like, yeah, people like they need the booze on a flight. I don't know. It's weird.
Fear of crashing.
I'm not seeing a lot of events in the southeastern Virginia area. Really, not that there was a ton before, but like, it doesn't seem like there's a lot. Are you just seeing that the landscape is people are like, I don't have the appetite for it? Like, what are you seeing locally as kind of the reason why?
Again, it gets down regionally, Zach. I mean, if you look at our area, you look at Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is still having a lot of events. Their convention center, they're doing things. They're doing a lot of outdoor things. They also have the highest COVID infections in the state. So, you take a bunch of people that are making their own decisions as to what they're going to do and protect themselves, protect others, and put them in a closed space, your numbers go up.
Are you stuck at your home office, socially distanced coffee shop, or your fancy, all bricked out corner office, wondering why no one can see your business and sales are all over the place? Sounds like you need a pro. That's why I developed the Anomaly Academy. Insert clever copy here. Oh, I guess I was supposed to put something else there. Oops. You can grab access to the Anomaly Academy now at ZackMillerSays.com/Anomaly Academy.